of drivers having to deal with that. But he's all the way up back now into 11th position, so not as terrible as it could have been for Maciej Minik. He's got a good recovery drive going, but we'll see if he can climb the order a little bit more. Oh, as we have Peter Schultz in the middle of the track.
Yeah, Sven de Vries has spun. Ben Horrell was involved. It looks to me as if, Schultz. Schultz was actually. I think that was a. Let me have a look at that. Schultz had stopped in track. That was a wheel issue. His wheel had shut off, and he was clighted from behind as drivers behind him had absolutely nowhere to go. Sven de Vries was the first driver to hit him. He lost his front wing. Also involved was Bastian Peisler, and Ben Horrell was involved as well. So that's a very unfortunate incident there. But unfortunately, several drivers involved as running wide goes Adam Pinches.
And Roy Schroten on the inside of Ben Zupanek there on the exit of the Casio triangle there, Casio chicane, and Schroten able to knock off Ben Zupanek, and his teammate Sebastian Kozmala put Zupanek back to P6.
And drivers already out of this race are Ben Horrell, Peter Schultz, Menno Klont, Mikkel Termala, Gary Magri, Jack Mayer and Johan Lindberg. So already a very attrition-packed race as Bastian Peisler is pitting to repair the damage he sustained from running into the back of the stopped Peter Schultz car. Nowhere he could really go there. And Sven de Vries is pitting for exactly the same accident now. He comes in as well. But it's still Dan Brewer leading by 1.283 seconds from Matt Richards, and then Stefan Roll behind as we're losing more drivers, I think. Gary, never mind, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
We do have Patrick Gerber, Ben Horrell, Peter Schultz, and Menno Klont, Michael Tuamala, Gary Magri, Jack Mayer, and Johan Lindberg out of the race thus far. So, yes, as Josh said, very attrition-packed race. But we haven't really talked about some of the drivers up front because the action's been all throughout the field. Go ahead, Josh.
More instance, Jean-Pierre Helpap spins out of 13th position, gets over the grass, gets back onto the track.
And Adam Pintus has run wide and run into the barrier there.
Oh, he's lost his front wing in that. Yeah, in the deadness, he's run over the gravel, and there was no stopping it after that. He'd been into the wall, and at this rate, I'm going to have lost my voice by the end of the race. I can already feel it going.
Indeed, there's so much action to call all around, and not all of it, the best action. A lot of drivers struggling with these difficult positions, but just feel free to lean on me there, Josh, as I'll try to call this here. Daniel Brewer right now, about a 1.5 second gap right now, so that seems to have been steady there. Back to Matt Richards. As Stefan Roland really hasn't pulled anything in on Richards as well. Maybe slightly there. Matt Richards running at 149 knots, as Stefan Roland though running 148.5 right now. So Stefan Roland definitely gaining, or has the ability to gain, on Matt Richards. But getting past him in these tricky conditions is going to be another thing altogether.
And Helpap's off again. That's twice in one lap, I'm afraid. He's had a big twitch on the exit, mid-corner actually, 130R. He's had a twitch, and he's gone around into the barrier hard. He's lost his front wing, and as he's rejoined the track, he's lost out to several drivers, and he's had to take a very interesting route into the pit lane, but he's repairing his damage now and returning to the track, but a long way down as Adam Pinches pits as well for the incident we saw from him earlier in this lap.
And Josh, we did have a clean pass for position. Sebastian Kozmala going down the inside of Roy Schroten in the hairpin.
Well, the only reason that was clean is because they're on the same team.
But still a clean maneuver. So hopefully all the other drivers will take note and we'll start to calm down here a little bit. But yes, very clean and orderly position change there. Roy Schroten, ever the tactician he is, he showed that in the first race that we were able to broadcast, staying on the intermediate tires for a whole 31 laps, but roughly half the race distance, and holding off Maciej Minik, who we will take a look on right now, and Maciej Minik has been able to get all the way back up into P7. So obviously not the ideal start to this sprint race for him, and third of the race basically for Maciej Minik, but doing a good job of keeping the car on the track and putting in a little bit of a recovery drive in these tough conditions.
A very touring car style maneuver has just taken place as Mark Fuller's clattered his way up the inside of Antonio Krelenovic at Spoon. That's for 9th position now, so Mark Fuller through to 9th place. But keep looking up front of the order. Stefan Roll is on the back of Matt Richards. What does this remind you of? As we get round 2 of the Richards-Roll battle. That's the fight that took place throughout almost the entire race. One, they're side by side on the exit of the hairpin, and Richards has the inside for 200R, but Roll is still right with him as Dowie Tapper now pits for damage. Yeah, Roll getting very close towards Spoon. This is where his teammate attempted the failed manoeuvre on Roy Schroten in race 1, and doesn't quite get close enough this time around.
Yeah, and he won't be able to have no DRS down this backstretch, as you pointed out to me, Joshua. So he's going to have to probably wait through 130R and then eventually maybe make a move in the Casio Triangle coming up here. But he just draws closer, and he might be able to make a maneuver then on the first turn, unless Richards gets it all wrong coming out of this turn onto the front stretch here. Just so difficult to pass at Suzuka in these wet conditions. And this battle right here is only aiding Daniel Brewer as he is just driving away, now 2.5 seconds ahead of Matt Richards.
Incidentally, we've lost Jean-Pierre Helpak from this race. He in the S. We've also lost Dowie Tapper, who lost in 130R and went into the Warhard. So 2 drivers from the same team, they're retiring on the same lap, the Zederik cars. They're both out, I'm afraid. Zederik is now a retired species, and we have 17 drivers remaining in this race out of the 27 that started. It's a shorter race than race 1, and already it's got even more attrition.
Oh, and unfortunately we missed it there, but Stefan Roy able to get by Matt Richards. Matt Richards, I guess, got it all wrong going into the final S's section there. Yeah.
There was contact between the 2 of them. Richards, in the final parts of the S's, lit up the rear tyres a bit too eagerly, lost control of the car, and then Roy had absolutely nowhere to go but to clatter into the side of Richards' spinning car, and they ended up coming together, and Roy went through into second, and Richards, who may try to argue that he was just trying to do a bit of Japanese-style drifting in Suzuka, I'm afraid has dropped behind the second position that he held before.
Well, he's going to have to do a heck of a job there, because Tom Lombards in the Formula Challenge race put on quite a Formula Drift exposition while he was leading the second Formula Challenge race. But right now, running through the order, Daniel Brewer right now out in front, almost 7 seconds in front of Stefan Roy. So Daniel Brewer, as long as he can keep the car pointed the right direction and all 4 tires on the tarmac, should be able to control this race to the end. Stefan Roy in P2, Matt Richards P3, Sebastian Kozmala and Roy Schroten, the 2 teammates, 4th and 5th respectively. Ben Supanek P6, Maciej Minik P7. Alyssa Ferry had a very tough first race, but she is putting on quite a show here in the sprint race in P8 right now. As Ben Zupanek heads into the pits, it has to be damage, the only reason you would pit. So Ben Zupanek's going to be falling down the order.
No, I tell you what, I don't see any damage on that car. He's gone on to intermediate. He may feel that he needs to take a risk at this point in the race. Maybe he feels like the Inters would be quicker at this stage. I'd be surprised, seeing as the rain has done nothing but fall. But whatever the case, he's on the Inters now. Well,
if he's not...
In fact, Adrian Faber is still in the race. Now, he'd retired earlier on, but he's still running, in fact. And I'm quite surprised by that, because I was sure he'd retired.
I mean, if he's in the race right now, hopefully he can finish. I mean, there's only 2 positions that are outside scoring points in this race right now. So if anybody else has an issue, which it is Super Cup in a sprint race, issues have been known to happen late in the race. If the feature told us anything, you know, he might as well stick around and see if he can't score some points and get put into the classification. Back to the rundown. Mark Fuller, 8th. Antonio Hranovic, 9th. Garrett DeVries, 10th. Ben Supanek falls all the way back to P11. Mike Bell, P12. Bastian Peisler, P13. Josh Downard, P14. And Sven DeVries, P15. Go ahead, Josh.
Sorry for the weird noises. Yeah, apparently what happened earlier on was that Adrian Faber made a pit. So that might have been what confused me. He's just had another incident, in fact, trying to get back on the road through turn 1, lost over the... well, actually didn't lose on the AstroTurf like the other drivers, got back onto the road and then lit up the rear tyres and spun it around, but he's got going again in dead last of the runners, but the key word there being runners. He's still running, and with half of the race gone, who's to say that he won't end up getting points if more drivers retire?
Indeed there. And Stefan Ruant now taking chunks of time, similar to what we saw in the feature race with Maciej Minik late in the race, taking chunks of time out of Roy Schroten's lead, but Schroten able to hold him off. Stefan Ruant now taking chunks of time right now, taking almost a second out of Daniel Brewer's lead right now, as Stefan Ruant is on a charge right now on Daniel Brewer, who's in P1, Stefan Ruant P2. We will see if he is able to close down on Brewer and maybe pass him for the win.
Yeah, possibly. Brewer is his next target, 4.461 seconds up the road through the last split. We'll have to see how that split time changes, but we're now exactly halfway through the race, so we'll have to see. And at the halfway point, it's Brewer leading from Ruhl, Richards, Kosmala, Schroten, Winnick, Ferry, Fuller, Hranovic, and De Vries. Now, I'll point your attention to 6th and 7th positions here. Maciej Winnick in 6th place. He dropped to 25th after the incident on the first lap. So, yeah, go ahead.
Ben Supanek getting so very close. As we have Daniel Brewer actually into the pits right now. I was going to say almost contact between Ben Supanek and Garrett De Vries, but Daniel Brewer coming into the pits, effectively giving the lead over to Stefan Ruant. I just don't think that this is the right call on Inters. You're not going to be able to make up that time, I don't think.
He's not on Inters. He's gone on to another set of, which shows me that possibly we're going to get a pit stop from every. But whatever the case, I was going to say another driver I'm impressed by in this race so far is Alyssa Ferry in 7th position, because her best result so far in this championship is 15th. So that's a big improvement from Alyssa Ferry. Anyway, Dan Brewer there just came out ahead of Roy Schroten in 4th place. Oh, as Ben Supanek's had an off in the chicane and has had to give the place back to Gerrit De Vries there. Just noticed another retirement as well. I'm afraid we've lost Sven De Vries for the 2nd race running. He was the driver who went flying over the barrier in race 1, and he's had another incident through the Dunlop curve this time, lost all on his own, and he's gone into the wall on the inside and retired from this race.
Indeed, but Adrian Faber, one more position closer to scoring points this round. Only needs to get by Adam Pincus up the road there. Unfortunately, he's about 20.5 seconds. It's Ben Supanek still harassing Garrett De Vries all over the back end as they head through the S's.
Goodness gracious. Well, we'll have to see. Will anyone else have to pit? Dan Brewer did pit. He was the first of the front runners to do so. And we might well see more drivers doing exactly the same. What about Stefan Ruhl? He's got a bit of traffic up ahead of him, so this might be a good time for him to come in. Not quite this time around, so Ruhl stays out for now. And of course, you're not obliged to pit in race 2, so if you can stay out the whole way, you should. Maybe Brewer just thinks that that's not the best strategy. He's now got Sebastian Kosmala to pass, and it looks to me as if he's going to pass him here down the straight. This is for 3rd position in this race. He opens the... Well, no, he can't open the DRS because this is in the wet, and he's going up the inside and getting 3rd position. Done and dusted. Brewer makes the corner, and he has the podium position.
I'm sure he had the imaginary DRS and a huge extra horsepower though, but yeah, in the wet, they obviously safety issues don't have that open. But I just don't get or understand necessarily why Brewer maybe came in. He didn't start on injured, did he, Joshua?
No, he didn't. It was a change from one set of full wets to another set of full wets, which rather surprised me. but it might well be that the full wets can't last the entire race. Brewer obviously thinks that they can't, unless it was a misclick, unless he intended to pit for inters and he clicked another set of wets by mistake, which would be very embarrassing. But it looks as if he's not lost too much. He might have only lost the win with that if he can get past Matt Richards. But if everyone else has to pit as well, he might have had a stroke of genius and just undercut.
Indeed, I'm just surprised that maybe the wets wouldn't last that long. It seems like these wet tires, you can really ride them down to almost the cords on a lot of these wet tires, to be sure, as long as you have the right amount of wetness on track. So that'd be the only thing that I can think of, at least dealing with stuff, you know, on the upper tier levels, Super League levels. You always want to pay attention to the wetness on track. As Daniel Brewer right now all over the back of Matt Richards. We're going to hopefully see a pass down the front stretch. Daniel Brewer moves back behind Matt Richards. Daniel Brewer now peeks to the inside, thinks better of it, and puts himself right behind Matt Richards. But just amazing grip as Matt Richards overspins the tires going through the first turn there. And Daniel Brewer is unfortunately not going to be able to take advantage. He's going to have to sit behind Matt Richards through the S's. He will be losing tons of time being on a, well, just having a faster car right now than Matt Richards. Going through the S's just that much slower. But we will see if Daniel Brewer is maybe able to make a maneuver on Matt Richards heading into possibly the hairpin.
Oh, in fact, he might make it before that, not quite. But this just shows you how much quicker the new set of wets is. And that shows you that it might well be that the wet tyres are going off pretty quickly. And indeed, Brewer goes past Richards on the inside. He dives up the inside and gets through and gets second position. Meanwhile, behind him, Mike Bell's spun out of 13th position. He's kept 13th position. In fact, he's had a brief spin. But yeah, I believe that the wet tyre is wearing pretty quickly because Brewer is already flying through the field. And that might mean that if the other guys have not pitted, they maybe should have done. Ruhl seems okay, though.
Well, so Ruhl's times are about 0.5 of a lap slower, though, than Daniel Brewer. So I'm very surprised. The thing is, though, Daniel Brewer is going to have almost the whole pit stop. A little bit less of a pit stop time, or pit delta time, to make up on Stefan Ruhl right now. Well,
Brewer's problem was that maybe mathematically his strategy was quicker, but on track, of course, he had to get past other drivers, which means that that was not the case. And as a result, he may have ended up losing out on the win because of that. But yeah, a bit of a weird decision there because Stefan Ruhl has not pitted. Richards has made a mistake, and Sebastian Kosmal has gone through into third place.
And if Richard's not careful, Roy Schroten's not too far back. He might get mugged off by Roy Schroten, our race 1 winner, if before the end of this race as well. As we only have about, what is that, 4 laps left?
We're on lap 14 out of 18.
But we'll give you a... Oh, go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just going to say that at this stage in the race, we're about 70. What have you seen?
Oh, Adrian Faber again having an issue and spinning it, heading into the 2 turns before the hairpin there.
Yeah, Dunlop.
The Dunlop. Just unable to keep that car pointed in the right direction for Adrian Faber, but he's still keeping it going.
Yeah, Adrian running in 16th position, only 1 place outside of the points. He is a lot down, of course, and quite a long way behind Adam Pinches, who is the car ahead of him on the road. But of course, Ali Ferry's been off. Ali Ferry has lost her front wing, and that's a big shame there. She had a twitch through 200R, and lost it, went into the barrier. That's a big shame because she was on for 7th position, which would have been by far her best Super Cup result. But loses places, and she's going to lose even more when she pits. However, Mark Fuller is now in 7th position, and this might well be his best Super Cup result. I'm just going to check that. Yeah, his best so far has been 11th this season. So this will be a best result for Mark Fuller if he finishes there. And with the few cars remaining in this race, this might still be a good race for Ali Ferry. Although she could have done a lot more with her situation. Indeed, side by side, heading towards 130R, Ben Schupanek and Gerrit de Vries. And Schupanek's going to run wide and over the AstroTurf, rejoins the road, and tries to keep it up the inside. Very close there. Gerrit de Vries gets the place. He's going to have to back out of that, in fact, because he's going over the curve on the outside, and Ben Schupanek does get the place as Ali Ferry pits.
And Gerrit de Vries is going to lose another position to Antonio Hryanovic right behind. So Gerrit de Vries really got it crooked through the Castillo hairpin.
He's going up again. He's in the gravel. Does he reach the wall? Yes, he does. Gerrit de Vries hits the barrier, loses his front wing. He's going to have to make a lengthy pit stop. He just got over the white line while braking alongside Kralinovic, and he's out of this race. So out of the race goes Gerrit de Vries. That means now that every driver who finishes the race will score points. It's well worth making it to the flag if you can at this stage.
Indeed, indeed. And we have Roy Schroten now all over the back of Matt Richards, coming through Spoon onto the backstretch, and Roy Schroten is able to just get it more traction than Matt Richards, who's obviously overcooked those tires. And Roy Schroten able to get the pass done as they head into 130R ahead of Matt Richards.
Yeah, good move there for Roy Schroten, a race 1 winner. Just great in the. And Schroten goes through into 4th position. This has been a really good return to the championship for him. He's been out for something like 4 or 5 rounds. Made a brief return for 1 round, but only did 1 of the 2 races and DNF from it. As into the pits comes Matt Richards. So obviously the tyres aren't going to last towards the end of the race. You can see they're almost slicks on the back of Richards' car, the rear left especially. And now he puts on another set of wet tyres. And will anyone else have to do the same thing? I don't think so this late in the race, but if they do, this could really swing back into the hands of Daniel Brewer.
It really could, and I'm very surprised that these tires haven't lasted as long as I would have thought they would have, because it seems like those intermediate tires just last for ages. But obviously not the case on the wets here. But Daniel Brewer is going to have a long road to hoe, so to speak, as he's going to have a 14.2 second gap to basically cut down on Stefan Rouen with about 2 laps left here. So it's going to be a very tall order for Daniel Brewer to pull that off.
So we're very close now to the end of the race, just a couple of laps to go. And Dan Brewer is running in 2nd position. Stefan Roll to have it in his control. He's somehow managed to keep the tyres in a way that Brewer hasn't. And that is a very interesting race. Sven de Vries, unfortunately, was one of our retirements. He made it from 27th to 8th in like 2 laps, then found a driver parked in the middle of the track, which is a big shame. And we hope to see you back in the field and having better luck next time out.
And Daniel Brewer has taken another second, 2 seconds almost, out of Stefan Rouent's time right now. So Stefan Rouent may be utilizing the gap that he has to go just that much slower, be a little bit safer. But Daniel Brewer is coming, 12.9 seconds gap to Stefan Rouent.
Yeah, Rouent's taking it easy now. He knows that he just needs and keep it on the island, because there is only this lap and 1 more. So Rouent has this win in the bag if he continues at this rate. And Dan Brewer knows that he can't catch him. He made a mistake by pitting and by not trying to conserve those tyres. Maybe just not having the setup to do so, or just not thinking that he could. And as a result, he's going to end up losing the win. But I'm sure second place is still a really good result. It takes a lot of skill to even finish that high up in these conditions, especially seeing as he made a pit stop and a lot of his rivals didn't do. So Dan Brewer has obviously been the fastest driver on track all race through. Meanwhile, Antonio Kralinovic runs wide and loses a place to Mike Bell. That's 10th position. And to be honest, this might well be Mike Bell's best result this season. I'm just going to check that.
No, he had a good result in Monaco, I believe, as well.
Well, we have a really muddled up order here. And actually, yeah, his best result was 4th place in race 1 in Monaco, so you're right.
Mm-hmm. And Ben Zupanek getting a little squirrely heading through the Dunlop, heading up to the chicane, or not the chicane, the hairpin here. Ben Zupanek, I believe, the only driver out there on the Inters, if I'm not mistaken. As we'll have to head up to the front right now as Stefan Rouen is starting his final lap right now as he's heading through the S's. Daniel Brewer just not able to take enough out of the gap in between him and Stefan Rouen. Will probably finish roughly around maybe 9-ish seconds back of Stefan Rouen. As Stefan Rouen heading through the Dunlap curves up here, he heads up to the hairpin. We'll be coming up on some lap traffic, potentially this lap, but I would assume that he would take it easy.
There's no other lap to do it on. This is the final lap of the race, and the gap for 10.79 seconds. So Stefan Rock just entering the final sector very shortly. He's driven a masterful race, somehow has kept the tyres in a way that Brewer and his closest rivals couldn't do. And he's extended his margin, and this is going to be a dominant victory for Stefan Roth in this race. He's got a little bit of lap traffic up ahead. That's Josh Downard there. Josh Downard in 14th position in the Green Stripes racing car. But as he heads through 130R, nothing is challenging him. And he breaks into the Casio Triangle. Just one corner to go right now. And he enters that corner. And he exits that corner, and Stefan Rohr wins race 2 here and gains many points on match and winner. He might well have taken the lead of the Drivers' Championship there. I believe he has done. Yes, he has. So Stefan Rohr, by my calculations, takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship. And Dan Brewer finishes 2nd in the race, and I believe runs out of fuel just after the finish line, or doesn't want to do the in lap, whichever way seems likely. It's going to be 3rd and 4th. For the Thunderdog cars. 3rd is Sebastian Kosmala. 4th is our race 1 winner, Roy Schroten. Schroten crosses the line 4th. 5th is the driver who very nearly won race 1, Maciej Winnick. 6th is going to be our race 1 pole sitter, Matt Richards, when he exits the final corner. Has a little bit of a twitch mid-corner, but Matt Richards claims 6th position. 7th is going to be Mark Fuller for his best result this year. His best result by 4 positions. He just comes through the final corner now in that yellow ST racing car. Crosses the line. 8th is going to be Bastian Peisler. Peisler also has 1 corner to go now. And he is going to claim 8th position ahead of Ben Zupanek in 9th place. A disappointing race for Benz, who's 3rd in the championship. Don't forget, that's a disappointing race from Ben Zupanek. 10th is going to be Mike Bell. Mike Bell coming around the final corner. Antonio Kralinovic is going to claim 11th place as he finishes now. It was looking oh so good for Alyssa Ferry until that mistake, but Ferry claims 12th position, which is still her best result in this league. Adam Pinches is going to claim 13th position as he crosses the line now. Josh Downard is 14th, and we've already seen Adrian Faber crossing line 15th and a lap down. Faber had several incidents but managed to finish the race, and that's important because he still managed to claim 1 point from that, which is better than no points. So definitely worth him not retiring from that race. We had 15 finishers at the end of that, and our retirements were Gerrit de Vries, Sven de Vries, Douwe Tapper, Jean-Pierre Helpap, Patrick Gerber, Ben Horrell, Peter Schultz, Menno Klont, Mikkel Tuomala, Gary Magri, Jack Nair and Johan Lindberg. Those were 27 drivers, 15 finishers. What a day. Indeed
there, Josh, and it was crazy couple of races we had, definitely with the rain injected into there, has just made it well, I mean, there were some, I guess, usual suspects up front, but definitely a lot of people that we haven't seen up front this year. Good to see them up front, and good to see them competitive, but the rain had a lot to do with a lot of this, and it just probably caught a lot of these drivers out.
I've just noticed that Ben Horrell and Sven de Vries both report going from 27th to 8th in 2 laps and then being taken off. That's a
Yeah, I believe it.
coincidence. Goodness
I
gracious.
believe
Well,
that.
yeah, exactly those positions, 27th to 8th in 2 laps, then being taken off. Whatever the case, that was the lot. Stefan Roll takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship. We're now waiting for a couple of interviews. And the first interview that can take place is going to be our Race 1 winner, Roy Schroten. Hello, Roy.
Hi there.
Hi, Roy. So you've been out of the championship for a while. You've come back today, and your first result is a win. Surely you're very happy with that.
Oh man, I'm almost never have been happier with a win like this one. It was my goal from the start of the season to win one, and I've been second and third a couple of times, but never that one step up. And now tonight at a place that I never imagined, I didn't even know if I was going to drive tonight, because I've had some difficulties for the past few weeks with my grandma passing away, and that together with school and work doesn't leave me enough time to really race, and then to come out here and win this one. I just have to thank Green for giving me the seat again, and I'm sorry for him that I skipped some rounds, but I think I paid it off here quite nicely.
Oh, certainly. You said you were quite teared up after the race, and understandably so. It sounds like an unlikely win, but you made it absolutely work with the strategy today, going onto the full wet, well, no, the intermediate tyres, far before a lot of your rivals. That was a very risky decision, but were you always sure it was going to work?
Oh no, I wasn't sure. It was just the weather was so crazy, and at first it started to rain for a bit, and I fought for a little bit to come in, and I already put in all my pit options, and then it started to dry again a little bit, so I decided to stay out, and then after 2 laps I had to come in, and it started to rain right as I came in again, so I had to stop a little bit in the pit lane to change my settings and to go to the intermediate tires, and it kept raining, so yeah, it's just an unbelievable win after what's happening the past few weeks.
Talk us through the end of the race as well. You were losing a lot of time to Mache on the full wet tyre at the end. The track must have been extremely wet at that point. It must have been, well, it was a treacherous set of conditions. And then there was that incident at the end as well. How did that look from your point of view?
Yeah, especially the last few laps, the rain got really heavy, and it was almost impossible to keep on driving on the intermediates, but they weren't too bad a little bit. But then Petter Schuster spun in front of me in the second to last lap, so I lost all my gap to Mache there. And then in the last lap, we went side by side to Spoon, and I'm pretty sure I left him enough room to be there, and he came outside a little bit, and we touched, and he spun, and I could just barely go on. So yeah, I don't think it's my fault. I left some space to the inside there for him, and there was a car's width, but yeah, with these conditions, maybe he slid to the outside a little bit, and we both fought hard for the win, and that happened unfortunately. But
what's the key to keeping it cool in the wet? You kept it cool. You didn't make any mistakes, and what's the key to doing that?
my setup was pretty okay in the wet. I had some more wings, so that gave a little bit easier to go through the corners. And then already 10 laps before the end, I was so psyched, and I really wanted it to finish already, and I started to feel like I was going to vomit, and then I don't know what all happened. A lot of things skipped through my mind, but I just kept it cool and didn't push it, and I constantly saw the gap and it was kind of stable. So that gave me the confidence to just keep on doing what I did the previous lap.
Fantastic. Well, well done for doing that. In race 2 as well, you had a rather difficult race, made up 5 positions in the end, and finished 4th. How did you manage that?
Yeah, that went pretty okay. It was mostly people in front of me making some mistakes, and I could just pass by. Like race 1, I had a very stable car, so I didn't really have any mistakes in that race. And just unfortunately that my teammate was a little bit faster, so I let him go to see where he could end up. And well done to Sebastian as well for the P3 there, and I'm very happy with 4th place.
Fantastic. Well done for that win and that 4th place, and good to see you back, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Yep, thank you.
So we're now going to bring in the driver who finished 2nd in race 1 there, and went on to finish, well, to have a pretty difficult race 2. I believe you finished 5th there. I'm talking about Maciej Winnick. Hello, Maciej.
Hello.
So you came into this round as the championship leader. I'm afraid you've lost that, but let's start talking. Let's start by talking about race 1 there. Slightly difficult to, well, very difficult to predict the strategy, and you ended up really having to push for it, didn't you?
Yeah, we had to push, and from the beginning I tried to attack Matt into turn 1, but he defended very well, and I was trying to keep pressure on him until our pit stops. Fortunately for me, when it started raining, I think he went a bit too deep into turn 1, went on the AstroTurf on the outside and went off track. So that was good for me and Stefan. Then we pitted for slick tires, even though it was raining, because we thought that it will be like in quali, that it will be short rain and then it will stop. But this time it started raining quite a bit. So we decided, unfortunately for Stefan, to double stack, and he lost on that to a bit more cars than me. And from that, I wasn't sure if it was right tire, because if rain would stop, then we would have been in wrong positions. But fortunately, it was staying like that, and Inter drivers were having more and more trouble with keeping it on track. So I used it, and I overtook pretty easily Adam Pinches, because I think one of the lapped cars went straight into the last chicane, and it interrupted Adam's racing line, so I used that. And I tried to attack Roy on the last lap in the spoon, and we touched twice. I think when I looked at replay, it was a racing incident, so I think I won't be doing anything about that. So still P2,
Okay.
very good result. Looking at Stefan, who finished in P4, so it was another points gained in race 1.
Well, good to hear that you're okay about the towards the end of the race 1 there. It was a disappointing end to the race, because you'd been pushing so hard and you'd been absolutely the quickest driver on the track towards the end there. In race 2 as well, you had more disappointment at the start of the race. Talk about the opening incident. We didn't actually see it on the broadcast because we had technical issues.
I think someone went slightly off, exiting the S's, and our engineer David Tion said that there is crash in front, and we broke before that, but Dowie Tapper just, I think, didn't see me and went into my left rear tire, and I spun out and went into the wall. And I had flat spots and broken suspension, so it was very tough to drive, but fortunately other drivers in front were crashing, and I got info about those crashes and I wasn't crash again. So thanks to that, and thanks to just keeping it on track, I was able to finish in 5th place, but definitely I didn't have pace in that damaged car to do more. Just too much suspension broken.
Okay, unfortunate to hear, but it was a very good recovery in the to 5th position. I looked away, then looked back again, and you gained something like 20 places. How did you do it?
I was just keeping it on track, trying to not spin myself and using others' mistakes. I think that's all.
That's all you can do in the wet. Okay, well, yeah, thanks for speaking to us, and we'll see you next time. Right, next up, we're going to bring in our pole sitter and consistent front runner, Matt Richards.
Hello.
Hi, Matt. So,
Hey, Matt,
I
how you
believe...
doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Well, I hope for a little bit of a better evening, but as things go.
Indeed, and you you were on pole for race one. That was probably the most exciting qualifying we've had all year between you and Machech there. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the races real quick. So you guys were just basically trying to trade the fastest lap toward the end. Did you think you had him with that last lap? You were purple through all those sectors. What were your thoughts?
Oh, in qualifying?
Yes.
I mean, I went into the session. I didn't. Thing is, with these green beasts that me and Johan call them, you never know what's going to happen. They can turn up in practice, and you can think, right, I've actually got a chance. I've got a tenth on them here, and I've got a half a tenth off them there, and I can gain time there. And you go into the qualifying session, and then boom, they're half a second quicker than you. So I went into the session realistically thinking if I can get third or fourth, with Dan showing up as well, that would have been nice. I managed to do my first lap. Me and Johan agreed leave pit lane straight away because we don't know what the weather's going to do. And luckily enough for us, we were, I think, the second and fourth cars on track when it started raining. So we were in that good enough position that we could get that banker lap in if it stayed raining. So I popped that lap in, and I think I had 0.7 on everyone. So I was pretty happy with that. And then I was hoping that it'd still rain, because then I wouldn't have to do anything else. And then it started dying down, and I could see the percentage going down. I was like, right, I'm going to leave it until 2.5 minutes left, go out, try and be the last car across the line. And I think I just timed it right. I think Stefan did his lap a little bit early. So the track was still drying, and that just gave me the chance to throw the lap in.
Indeed, it was a crazy good lap there, Matt, and that was probably the most exciting qualifying, like I said, we've had all year in Super Cup. So on pole for race one, you, Stefan, and Machech didn't come into the pits when it first sort of started raining. What were your thoughts on that one? We were a little surprised in the broadcasting booth, saying, "Well, it's raining right now as we're seeing it on the backstretch heading into 130R. Why wouldn't these guys want to come in and maybe take a gamble if it's going to rain a little bit longer?"
We didn't have a weather guy, so we didn't know whether it was going to continue raining or stop like it did in practice several times. Well, at least me and Johan did anyway. And I was always aiming at lap 14 for the stop. I think I got to lap 11. It wasn't so bad. I think it started raining lap 10-ish. Lap 11 wasn't so bad. It still felt pretty grippy. Lap 12, coming into turn one, I think the combination of the tyres just being worn and the track really starting to get quite slippy, just understeered straight off in turn one, and those guys went through, and I was thinking, right, consolidate P3, try and keep that podium now. And I think we all pitted at the same time, or Stefan did one more lap. So I managed to pit, and I was thinking if I can jump Stefan, then I can sort of be in the middle and try and attack, because try and sort of use the person behind me pushing to push me forward to go quicker, and stuck the softs on. Wasn't so bad until I think we all got caught in a train. And I was just saying to Stefan a minute ago that what was weird was that I think all of us saw the track wetness at about 24, and we thought, try and sit it out, give it a couple of laps. By this time, I hadn't noticed that anybody had pitted and put inters or wets on. So try and sit it out, see what happens, and then I think that lap that I'd spotted it was on 24 at the start. When I actually hit pit lane, it was 60. So it was just this sudden downpour of just hell, and it just got so bad. And I was catching the guys in the sort of first sector and the first half of the second sector, and then I just had a moment where I'd seen the wetness just creeping up real quick. And I was like, you know what, just try and get to the pit lane and just go from there. So
Indeed. Well, that was a great drive, that first race there from you, Matt, and great pole position there. We'll talk really quickly about that second race. What caught me off guard is how quickly the wets sort of fell off in that sprint race. I figured they would have maybe lasted the whole race. How much tire saving were you having to do at the end there, Matt?
I actually had to pit to change tires because my tires got that bad.
Oh, that's correct.
We'd set up for the inters. We knew that the intermediate tire was good up until 80% wetness offline. That if you went offline, you did hit a little bit of trouble, but when it was offline, because obviously there's a bridge at Suzuka, so the online just says 0. It's really distracting. So up to about 80% offline, it'd be fine. And we were hoping that that's as high as the wetness would go. Didn't. Between race 1 and 2, we both decided to take wets, which we hadn't set up for at all. And I just couldn't keep the grip in them. There must be a difference in the way to set them up, possibly, whether it's pressures, cambers, whatever, we don't know. But the setup just wasn't there for the wet tyre. I think 3/4 of the way through the race, I had 20% left on my fronts. That they were wearing that bad, so I was just, I need to pit. If I'd have known that they were going to wear so bad, I think I would have pitted around the same time as Dan and maybe been able to stay on the podium. But I mean, it's all what ifs at this point, isn't it? It's what if in the first pit stop in race 1 I'd put inters on, would I have won? You kick yourself for not doing it, but at the same time you didn't do it, so that's how it is.
Yeah, the chess piece is definitely it just depends on which way you want to play it there. But either way, Matt, great result for you and great result for the team. And we always enjoy seeing you getting those great results. So best of luck for the rest of the season there, Matt.
Thank you very much.
And we'll bring in Stefan Roualt now, our race 2 winner, and talk to him real quick. So, hey, Stefan, this is Tyler Parker. You're on the broadcast now. We've got I've got a few questions for you. It was a great qualifying session between you, your teammate, and Matt Richards there for pole. But in the race, one of my questions was, were you and Maciej just sort of playing cat and mouse with Matt Richards, trying to see if you could push him while still sort of saving your tires, running, as a team, and then sort of seeing if he'll wear his tires out a little bit longer and see if you can push yours a little bit farther and then overtake him that route? Or what was your guys' strategy? Because it looked very menacing on the broadcast with those 2 Scuderia Brasilia cars behind Matt Richards just stalking him every turn.
Well, actually, the first thing we discussed was trying to catch him in the first few corners, because normally we have a pretty good start, but that didn't happen. And then we switched to trying to stay as close as possible, keep the pressure on, and see if his tires would wear off. And I think even before it started raining, it did in the end, and we could catch him. So I think the strategy worked, but the rain changed everything.
And that was a great second lap that you had to pull when your teammate came in when the track was so wet, and you had to go another time around basically because of the double stack issue that would have occurred. You eventually did get caught out by that when it started to come down in that torrent toward the end. I talked to Matt Richards a little bit about it, but what was your strategy when it started to rain at the very, very beginning? I guess y'all thought, well, we'll just see if it maybe passes or just isn't as bad and we're able to continue. But did any part of you say, maybe if I come in now, I can really capitalize if this stays as wet as it is or gets even wetter?
Actually, I did double stack because going another round would be impossible. But basically, it was just too wet. So I double stacked behind Mache, and then of course that gives you a little. From that point on, I was lagging a bit behind. I was like 8 seconds behind Mache, and I came back behind Matt again, and just so difficult to drive behind someone in these conditions. I normally enjoy driving in the wet, but the I don't know what happened here, but it was so tricky. And driving behind Matt was just really difficult. So I just had to wait for him to make a mistake, and in the end he did. But I think that was the only place that I gained in that race after that.
Indeed, and we'll talk really quick about race 2 right now too. Were you worried at all when Stephen Brewer came into the pits and took on those new fresh sets of wet tires, and potentially how much? Well, not potentially. How much were you having to try and save those wet tires toward the end of that first race to make sure that you were able to finish in first place?
Yeah, we discussed with David before, and we definitely wanted to go for wets, and we definitely wanted to go for just without a stop. So there was no question. We wanted to go without a stop, so we had to save tires the whole time. I thought everyone would do that, so I was kind of surprised when Dan pitted. But when he did, I just started to go into save mode even more because I knew he would be a threat if if he could pull out the lap times towards the end. So that's what I did. I saved the tires even more, and I could get to the end. And yeah, really tough race, but really sweet win.
Indeed, and you've now taken the points championship lead away from your teammate Maciej Chminik, and again, it's always a great treat seeing you two guys fight up front for this championship, and seeing everybody else climb on board, especially in these adverse conditions. So hopefully we get a few more of those. Hopefully you have a little bit more fun the next wet race we have, but definitely. Good luck to you and your teammate Maciej Chminik later on this season, and hopefully we see a good championship fight between the two of you.
Thanks, mate.
All right, thank you.
So that was it for the interviews today, and we've run very over time, but yeah, thanks for joining us for these two fantastic races, and thanks to everyone we just interviewed, and to our cameraman Argo Tida, and to my co-commentator Tyler Parker. And to all of you for watching. Remember, you can join us tomorrow at 7:30 BST for the Super League race. That's going to be very exciting. And then also in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be live at the same time for the next round 16 of the GPVWC Supercup Championship. So see you then.